Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to all the attendants for the webinar on halal logistic practices. Yeah. So this is the fifth webinar conducted by the Chartered Institute Logistics and Transport in Malaysia, Perak section, and University Tunku Abdul Rahman, UTAR Kampar campus. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this webinar. So in this webinar today, we will discuss about the halal practices and then how it's being implemented, and then from there we hope that you will learn gain some knowledge on halal practices. Okay, so in this webinar, what we're going to do is that there will be a panelist to discuss, and then at the to all the participants, I would like to appreciate if you could give your questions to the panelists by writing into the Q&A box. Yeah? So we will address all your questions with the panelists during this session. Okay, to officiate this event, I would like to invite Datuk Muhammad Mahyudin Abdullah, CMILT, the President of Chartered Institute Logistics and Transport in Malaysia, to give his opening speech. Datuk, the floor is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good morning. Yang berusaha moderator, yang berbahagia Profesor, Doctorate Yang, and all our distinguished guests. Lest we forget our hardworking UTAR committee members who organized this good webinar. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to deliver a keynote speech for the launch of the webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, involvement of the Department of Islamic Development Malaysia, YAKIM, to confirm the status of halal on consumer food products and goods in the country began in the year 1974. Almost 50 years since its inception, Malaysian halal industry has seen rapid development and grow to be a global brand. Along the way, Halal Development Corporation, HDC, was established in 2006 to promote participation and facilitate growth of industry players in the development of Malaysia's halal ecosystem, mainly to position Malaysia as the most competitive country leading the global halal industry. Malaysia's halal industry market value is expected to reach US 147.4 billion by 2025, while the global halal industry is expected to grow to US 2.6 trillion by 2024 globally. Malaysia's halal industry contributed to 7% of Malaysia's GDP in 2019. All this is possible with a good halal logistics and practices. Halal logistics is an approach to avoid contamination of perishable, raw material, and food products during transportation or distribution activities. It refers to the process of managing the logistics operations such as fleet management, storage, warehousing, and materials handling according to the principles of Sharia law in ensuring integrity of the halal product at the point of consumption. Meanwhile, halal supply chain is a network of supply that gives special attention and endorsement to the products and services to ensure halal integrity throughout the network. So the question is, how is halal logistics and practices being implemented within supply chain. I hope this webinar will provide the audience a clearer understanding on this subject. It is important to fully grasp the idea of halal logistic practices within the halal supply chain to take advantage of the abundance of opportunities in the ever-growing halal industry. One of the areas being focused on currently is Malaysian halal export. Malaysia Hall certification headed by Jakim is a world-recognized and one of the most trusted brands. Since achieving its target of 19 billion halal export return in 2014, the government has revised the target to 50 billion to be achieved in 2020. We have been on a steady path of export return between 35 to 40 billion for the past few years. However, the COVID-19 pandemic hit us in 2020 and affected the global supply chain, causing us to be short of 20 billion of the mark, recording earning in export of 31 billion in 2020. However, the global halal industry is expected to rebound back by the end of 2021. So expect a vibrant halal industry in the 2022. There are 11 key sectors of halal industry expected to grow, among others, food services and pharmaceutical, halal ingredients, halal medical tourism, halal cosmetics, halal logistics, and halal modest fashion. Halal cosmetics industry and halal pharmaceutical industry are both worth some US 39 billion and US 97 billion respectively, with positive local growth of 4.2% CAGR, that is compounding annual growth rate for pharmaceutical in 2025. Overall, there are plenty of areas to be explored, many opportunities to be enjoyed. Thus, it is imperative that a solid halal logistics and practices to be implemented by players of the industry. Based on a study on readiness towards halal logistics in 2013, there are 5 factors that influence the readiness towards halal logistics. There are vision to change, halal assurance system, environment, employee acceptance, and management support. These factors have to be identified and dealt with to ensure a seamless implementation within the supply chain. Knowledge is power, which is why CILTM with its partners, there is a Halal Development Corporation, has established and provide professional courses to help nation logistics and supply chain industry players to get an upper hand in dealing with this issue. So we are initially going around the country first, and on the 18th of November, we'll be signing a MOU with the international CILT, which is co-signed by our president, international president, who happens to be Malaysian, Datuk Razak. And from there, we'll move to the 37 countries that where CILT is. Lastly, before I hand over to the excellent organizers, I hope through this webinar, we can gain beneficial knowledge that could improve us further, make friends with people within the industry, involve and work together for the betterment of our country's future. And I would also like to thank the speakers for taking their time to speak on the subject today. And lastly, I would like also to wish Selamat Hari Kemerdekaan yang ke-64 to all nations, and let the Merdeka spirit guide us to be the best we can be, stronger together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Datuk Muhammad Mayudin, our President of CILT Malaysia. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions to the panelists, I would like to request you to write in the Q&A box, and the question will be presented to the panelists after the end of the discussion. Okay. Next, I would like to invite Puan Nurul Faraiza Arifin, CMILT from University Tengku Abdul Rahman, to moderate the event. So, Puan Nurul Faraiza, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Muhammad Azam. I would like to share or screen about our panelists. Okay. Can you see my slide? Can?
Yes, we can see your slide.
All right. Good morning and Assalamualaikum to Malaysia. Welcome to our live webinar, Discover Halal Logistics and Practices, how is being implemented internally within the supply chain. Organized by CILTM Perak Section, UTAR Kampar Campus with cooperation of CJ Century Logistics. Let me introduce myself. My name is Nurul Faraiza Arifin from University Tengku Abdul Rahman Kampar Campus. I am your moderator for today's event. Before we start, let me state our objective of the webinar today is that to support UN Sustainable Development Goal number 12, which is responsible consumption and production, explain the practices of internal halal logistic practices from logistics service provider, understanding the concept of halal logistic and supply chain theory from an academic perspective, and also to enhance collaboration between industry and universities throughout CILTM partnership. Our first panel from CJ Century Logistics Holding Berhad, which is Mr. Zainil Haris Harun, is the director for CJ Century Logistics. His experience is 20 years of in 3PL, spanning the domains of developing contract logistic and supply chain management businesses. His areas is in responsible cover business development, solution design, implementation, operations, logistic IT solution throughout Asia. And also he's listed of logistic solution design and implementation involve multinational and local sectors. Our second panel is Mr. Muhammad Sofyan Muhammad Yusof. He's the Assistant General Manager of CJ Century Logistics Holding Berhad. He's experiencing in establishing, implementing, maintaining, and control the system. ISO 9001, OHSS 1800-01, ISO 14001, TSO, and ISO. I think it's all listed here. He also designing, implementing, updating the company's health, safety, and security and environment policies. He also in charge of establishing, implementing, maintaining, and control the system, including quality management system, road traffic safety management system, good distribution practice of medical device, and also Mission Standard 2400 Halal Toiban Insurance Pipeline. And last, our panel is from academic. It's Associate Professor Dr. Adam Muhammad Saifuddin from University Utara Malaysia. His experience in specializing in warehouse and logistic operation and management. He's lectured for undergraduate in the same field, MBA postgraduate, supervised masters and doctoral student in DBA and PhD. He served as deputy president in the Society of Logisticians Malaysia, LOGM. He is a fellow LOGM and also senior logistician. Professionally certified CILT UK, professional technologist by MBOT, and also his assessment panel for MQA for logistic transportation and SQM programs. That is for the introduction. Okay, let me stop sharing. hold on. All right. Shall we start with our questions from Mr. Muhammad Zanil, Mr. Zanil Haris Harun. How are you today? Assalamualaikum, Mr. Zanil.
Waalaikumsalam. Very good morning to everybody.
Yeah. Can I pose my question to you now? All right. In terms of halal supply chain in Malaysia, how is the halal practice in logistics?
Okay. Assalamualaikum and a very good morning. Okay. Let me just make it very in a simplified manner. Okay. First of all, I'd like to zoom in into from an operational point of view. Yeah. Because coming from the logistics industry, I think very importantly, just to share what exactly is halal logistics from an operational point of view. From a halal supply chain, number one, in terms of practices, what's very important here, there are 6 points. Yeah, that's it. There are 6 points that we have to look into. Okay, this is basically to be practiced after, after like my colleague Sophia had implemented or establishes the processes. I mean, number one, training is very, very important. Okay, so let me just zoom in into the 6 items of the operational practices of halal. Number one, handling and storage. Okay, handling and storage, it covers from your transportation, your warehousing, and of course, handling of the products. Yeah, from the customers or the client's manufacturing plant, and of course, all the way to the retail stores, or in fact now, B2C, and go directly to the consumer. Yeah. And then the second point would be in terms of cleanliness and hygiene. Yeah, that is one of also the very, very important element to ensure the continuance of halal supply chain. Okay. Then the third one would be segregation of the products. Okay. Segregation, again, we look into the types of packaging materials. Okay. Prior to even start, even before we move the goods, okay, we need to have dialogues, we need to have discussions, understanding on in terms of the packaging materials, how strong it is, how good it is. Is it able to withstand, say for example, being in a container, for a long voyage, for example. Okay. And then the fourth one would be how do you manage no cross-contamination? Yeah, that's another element, because cross-contamination can be from even particles, can be even, say for example, if in a warehouse, if there's a broken glass, okay, your bulbs from your lighting breaks, that's also part of, in a way, you got to ensure there's no cross-contamination. Okay, and the fifth one will be safe to use. Safe to use meaning we got to make sure our trucks are in good condition. Yeah, the forklifts or the material handling equipment. Okay, the rackings. Okay, all this also covers part of the requirements, of ensuring the whole halal supply chain in terms of operations. And then at the end of the day, the last point here, I think everyone needs to have that wholesome thought, wholesome practices. I mean, do it with all your heart. Yeah, what we have been trained in terms of the halal checkpoints. Okay, so you got to have that wholesome work work culture. Yeah, so those are the 6 points in terms of practices, in terms of operations, covering our to ensure that we comply to our MS 2400 in this case. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's just cover the high level of what in terms of the operational practices in terms of our halal supply chain.
Okay, in terms of growth, maybe Mr. Muhammad Sofyan can answer me. In terms of the growth, what limits the growth of halal logistic practices in supply chain actually? Is there any limits?
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to all audience. Okay, about the growth, if you're talking about the halal logistics, I'm talking on scope of Malaysia. Okay, most of us, if we look on the halals, we are more emphasized on halal of products. And if you talk halal in total, actually is split to two segments. One is the halal of product. The second one is halal of service. So in logistic is under halal of service. So if we look here, how we can grow the halals in the industry is about the enforcement. It's about the enforcement, because yes, we start from the ingredients of products, right? Ingredient products, and then we manufacture, and then we deliver the product to the end users. But the problem is the enforcement on the supply chain, because we have started with the manufacturing. We started with manufacturing. Once we produce the products, right, and then we ensure that all the ingredients is fulfill the Sharia requirements or the halal, the lawful in Islam, but we lack on the enforcement on the supply chains. There is no enforcement that okay, let's say this product is halal, so mean in the process of supply chain also need to have the halal service. So if there is enforcement about this supply chain, so definitely our halals will be growth. We will grow into our markets. That's my views.
I see. Okay, since that just now you mentioned about the enforcements are lack in terms of a supply chain,
Yeah.
maybe Dr. Adam can answer about how is the understanding, the concept of halal logistic and supply chain theory in terms of academic perspective?
Thank you, Nurul.
Yeah.
Okay. Before I touch on the word halal, let me give some very brief lectures
Okay.
about the logistics and supply chain. Okay, but this is apa? But this is to make sure that we need to differentiate these two. We cannot just lump into one. Later, our audience, especially the students, they may have confusions on that thing here.
Yeah.
Okay, now when you're talking about the logistics here, the definitions by all the scholars is always that from the point of source to the point of destination. Okay, a very simple view. Okay, that means that if you are about logistics, you are taking the products from one point, okay,
Point
from
A
your
to
source,
point
from
B.
the manufacturers, all those things, yes, okay, and the process will go on, okay, after the warehouse or teachers until to the destination.
Yeah.
Destinations means it's a place, but in supply chain, it's different. That one not different. It's almost the same. The only thing is that it is in front of the customer's door. It's not the destination anymore. In front of the customer's door. Okay, that means you can see like the Panda Food, all those things. They send the logistic, all those things, and now they practicing the supply chain there. Okay,
Yeah.
right in front of your customer's door, in front of your door, sending the food there. Nampak tak the progress?
Yeah.
Very, very fast. Okay. Now, what do we call the logistics here? Okay. If you make a studies, the development evolutions of the logistics here, it comes from two very, very important areas. First one is the material management. Okay, in the material management, you will have the sourcing, purchasing, inventory system, all those things by the system, all those things, yes, where this has been practiced for a long time, back from the manual until to now, they use all the computer. So those in the purchasing especially, they are very good in these cases. So you want to measure for the purchaser, you want to be good. As a material management person, you must measure the systems of the inventories and the buyers and the suppliers. You must. Okay, those in the very simple way, I put it the way lah. Okay, there's the first part, material management. And the second part here is the physical distribution. The physical distribution, it means the warehouse is number one. Okay, warehouse, material distributions, the material handling, the transportations, okay, all those things involved with the physicals. Now, before this, two separate entities until as the progress goes by from 1950s, 60s, 70s, 80s, okay, then the two have been merged and it become logistics. Okay, the studies that way, I made a study, it's becoming that way. I think everybody should know that thing, yes. Okay, this is just to make sure that the students are happy to hear that. Okay, right now. So it becomes logistics. As the time progress, okay, especially with the development of IT, we have the globalist, borderless world. Just by the click, you can go to anywhere through the in front of our screen. IT, as I always like IT. Okay, I look around that thing just because of this case. It really teach me a lot and taught me something that I never thought of before. Because when I was as a student last time, I used to read Alvin Toffler, wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, wave 4. I'm telling you, I'm fantasized with all those things, but it's not fantasized, it is practical. What he mentioned 40 years ago actually is happening. Fantastic. Now, based on that IT, then they come up with another strategy and how to accumulate all those things, yes. And that's why the supply chain come into the picture. But to have the supply chain, you cannot have just a logistics. They must have another few more elements there to support the logistics. Logistics is a pillar of the supply chain. That's why anywhere, whatever it is you have, you have the supply chain. You have the logistics as the lead of the supply chain, compulsory. Then after that, the next element will be the IT. Okay, IT is very important. Okay, that's where it connected the whole world here. And the next one is the strategic planning. So a good management, the good people, remember like those our friend here, Cik Zanil, Cik Sofian, they're all the strategic planner. Okay, they are good at 10 years, they can plan. Okay, what to do next. Then after that, we will have the finance. Finance, of course, in any of the business organization, you need finance. You cannot run away. Who controlling that? Cost, expenditures, everything, all those things. If not, out of the way. Okay, the company can go bankrupt because you don't have control of that thing. And the last one with the sales and marketing. Of course, you need business, isn't it? Business development, all those things. So the business must attend to that thing. So all those four elements plus the logistic that become the supply chain management as well. Now, okay, and it's going to expand. I don't know, a few more elements maybe after that. So you must remember, supply chain logistics is under the umbrella of the whole supply chain. Now we come to halal. Where halal come to the picture? We have the halal logistics, we have the halal supply chain. So what you have to do now, as I mentioned just now, the logistic definition from the point of sourcing, from the point of the source to the point of destinations, complying to the Sharia law. That is the magic word, complying to the Sharia law. Tak boleh lari Islamic law lah. So, and you are talking about the supply chain is the same from the destinations, okay, from the point of sourcing, okay, to the point of destinations in front of the customer's door, complying to the Sharia law. That means your food that being sent by the food panda must be halal, comply to the Islam. It's not only the food, it's everything. If you buy the perfume, then the perfume must be halal. If you buy the medicines, the tablets, whatever it is, it must also be complied with the Sharia law. That's what it means here. So I don't want that you all been, the audience been so confused that what's so great about this thing here? It's all the same. It's all the same. It's not the same, yeah. The mindset you have to make sure that between the halal and non-halal there. So halal means is a very big word there, complying to the Sharia law. That's why you practice that thing. Yes, everything must be compliant. That thing, if not, it's non-halal. Okay. And one thing that I would like to remind the audience, okay, that halal means does not focus for the Muslim only. Halal means for everybody. That is the difference. I don't want you to narrow down just for yourself. Halal means only for this particular Muslim, this particular. No. Halal means for everybody, non-Muslim around the world. Okay. I hope these explanations open up more to the mindset of everybody. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. That's a very clear explanation. Right. Maybe in terms of practice, all transportation, including containers, trucks, need to go for SIR2, or they call it SAMA, process based on the JAKIM's procedure. The cost will be concluded and higher for the customer. It will discourage, especially for Muslim customer, because of the cost will go direct to them. In terms of the policy for CJ Logistics, what is your company policy and comments on this? Mr. Daniel?
Yes, thank you. It's a very, very interesting topic. I mean, number one, in terms of policy, basically later Sophian can elaborate more on that, on the technicality part of it. What I can share is our operationally and how we deal, okay, with our customers, okay, in terms of number one, the SOPs requirements, okay, which ties back to the our halal control checkpoints, okay. Then the second part is expectations, requirements, expectations. For us, we always face that challenges. Okay, let me start off with the easier part first. In terms of trucking, the normal land transportation. Okay, in terms of physical distribution, in terms of normal trucks, that somehow can be, in a way, we can control that in terms of we don't need it to be SIR2 or SAMA. Okay, reason being because as a company, okay, we don't handle any non-halal products. Okay, that's a policy from day one. I mean, even before we actually embark on getting this certification way back in 2008. Okay, 2008 was a different standards whereby we work very closely with Syrian back then, 2008. So anyway, coming back to trucking, for normal transportation is controlled because it's our own trucks. Okay, we do not handle any again non-halal products. On top of that, a lot of the trucks are dedicated. If it's for FMCG, then it is basically transporting only FMCG products from that pool of customers, which in a way has got the necessary certification. In our case, the halal certification. On top of that, of course, with the halal control checkpoints, internally, as Sophian mentioned, enforcement. Okay, so he's basically our policeman. You know, he's got a team. You know, to go around and issue red cards or yellow cards, depending on the severity of the issue. Okay, but over a period, it took us a couple of years actually to tighten that up. As I mentioned just now in the opening, wholesome. I think to get a team, that mindset of operations. I mean, you're talking about from the warehouse handlers, from the truck drivers, from the management. Yeah, I think that to educate, to understand the importance of the halal checkpoints, that's very, very important. Okay, so in terms of trucking, land transportation, for us, we have developed it over a period of time, and I think it's very, very much stable now because in terms of our pool of clients, they've been with us say since 2008 until today. There's some for over 10 years, 6-7 years. You know, contracts are being renewed. Reason being why? It's because of we uphold and ensure that we continue the halal chain for them. I mean, the halal supply chain for them. Okay, that's for more of the land transportation. But when it comes to exports, okay, which involves containers, that, I mean, I'll be very open here. It's challenging. Okay, so how do we go about it? Okay, there must be a solution to it, because containers can come from all over the world. It comes into the port whenever a booking is made. Okay, as hauliers, we have our own haulage trucks too. We go pick it up from the depot. Okay, we bring it over to the warehouse to do the stuffing of containers. The question is, we don't know where the container came from. What was the cargo before that? Yeah, so that has always been a challenge. But of course, so what we did was we only focused on certain areas. Okay, one good example for a start. Let me give you an example. East Malaysia. Okay. Of course, there's always an imbalance of trade of East Asia. We handle about 1,000 over containers to East Malaysia, to Sabah and Sarawak. And most of our, majority of our customers are food and beverages. Okay, the top 3 food and beverages are with us, and we handle door-to-door shipments for them. Means we pick up from the plant or from their warehouse, or if we are handling their warehouse or the DC, it will be from our warehouse all the way to their customers. Okay, and their customers in this case are mostly distributors. So what we do in terms of the containers, basically, number one, we've made a deal with all the shipping lines that applies between West Malaysia or Peninsular Malaysia to Sabah Sarawak. Okay, these containers, of course, by default, from the manufacturer itself, it has got to be food grade or A grade containers. Okay. Number 2, there are requirements from the customer itself in terms of how do you check the containers. Number 1 is, of course, to follow the halal requirements. That's one. Number 2, of course, on top of that, we will be trained, okay, to smell, to look. There will be a checklist. I mean, when it comes to smell, we actually learn how it smells. Okay, how it smells. That means we have bottles, like you go to a perfume counter and you smell. Yes, that's how we are being trained. Okay,
you must have a good nose.
Yeah. So yeah, everyone is being trained, especially the guys who is going to start the container, who opens the container. Okay, basically the team lead. Okay, who's been trained. Okay, not just on the halal checkpoints, but also smell. I think that's very, very important. Yeah, and of course, touch. Okay, the touch meaning you got to touch the floorboard of the containers. Okay, to feel. Okay, was it oily before? Is it bau ikan busuk before? I mean, these are the. It sounds tedious, but I think it's straightforward. The minute you have a checklist, you practice it, it becomes your second nature. Yeah. So in terms of containers, one of our value proposition here is we bring it. The minute we pick up from the container, we have to deal with the shipping lines. We bring it over to our, we call it our CTP, sensory transit point. Basically, this is an area whereby we check all the containers and we will do the necessary. Okay. Of course, there is a cost, but that cost is being, what do you call it? Say from a commercial point of view, it's basically long term. And then number 2 is to cover, I should say, to cover unnecessary non-compliance. Yeah, we don't want, because these are food manufacturers, that publicity, the minute you get a negative news out there, then it's going to be bad. So why not just comply?
Yeah, Mr. Zanil, in terms of your SOP, you're saying that your touch and your smell, beside the container is coming from the A grade and also food container, yeah, food grade container. Do you need to wash inside the container? It's a part of the SOP. Is that?
Yes. Okay. Yes, that's part of the SOP. Especially, I can share with you, we have seasons too, especially during the monsoon season. Yeah, these containers need to be washed. Reason because at the depot, I mean, depot is a very busy area. The containers can be on the ground, whereby it's not on the concrete flooring, So, of course, from time to time, we will receive containers that are dirty on the outside. Yeah, of course, again, the look, very important, visual, for us is very important. And then, of course, as mentioned, the feel and smell. Okay, and this is on top of the halal critical checkpoints that we need to enforce.
All right, thank you, Mr. Zani, for your very clear explanation. This question I would like to give to Mr. Muhammad Sufyan. In terms of establishing the SOP, controlling the ISO, together with MS 2400, which is a halal and Toyiban, are they the same application actually?
Okay. Okay. I'm explaining. Start from the basics one. Because in Malaysia we have two standards. Okay. One is under MS 1900. It's under halal 1900. We are namely as a quality management system in Islamic perspective. And the second one is MS 2400. Is halalan, or before this they call namely as halalan Taiwan assurance pipeline. But now with the new revision 2019 is under halal supply chain management system. So the halal supply chain management system, there is three pillars. Right? The first pillar is about the transportation. It's transportation and general requirements. It's under 240-1. And then the second pillar is MS 240-2 is halal supply chain management system under warehousing and also general requirements. And the last one is MS 240-3 is halal supply chain management system under retailing. So the Malaysia standard is actually we have Malaysia standard, and we also have halal manuals. Okay, Malaysia standard is controlled by our Department of Malaysia Standards, and the halal manual is established by JAKIM. Okay? But if you read these both manuals, you can see that the halal manual that established by JAKIM is actually support the Malaysia standard, the MS 240 as a guidelines. Right? So if you want to know more details about the halal requirements, we should refer to the halal manual which that established by JAKIM. So it's collaborate between the Malaysia standard and also JAKIM. Right? Okay. To establish the Malaysia standards, okay, the vital one is about trainings and also awareness. Okay, and okay, the training, and because there is a requirement that the organization need to provide legal and Sharia requirement training for staff to ensure that all the respective staff understand that what is the requirement of the Malaysia standards. And then it also include our internal halal committee. So in this process, it's very vital for us to ensure that during our practice we can apply all the requirements that align with the Malaysia standards. So okay, and then once we look on these Malaysia standards, they are more emphasized on dedicated. Means the dedicated warehouse, okay, and then you should have a specific one group that understand what's the halal requirement. That's why in CJ Sentry, it's what Mr. Zainal said that okay, for a warehouse we have dedicated warehouse, because once we have dedicated warehouse, there is no issue on the cross contaminations or direct contact with non-halal products. So it means that we comply with the Malaysia standards. And then once we talk about the transportations, okay, for the tracking, tracking, it's easy to us to control because we can dedicate, right, the trucks, the drivers, and then we also we do the incoming inspections to ensure that they comply with our requirement. The issues now is about the container, okay? That's what Mr. Zainal says, it's about container, because container is beyond our controls. I can see it's beyond our control. because if you, as what Dr. Adam said, IT. So we are lack on the traceability. Okay, traceability. If you look on our shipping system now, we only can trace one shipment before. Okay, so means we can trace the second pillar, third pillar, or fourth pillar. We also don't know that. Okay, maybe the second pillar, the container is only occupied with hazardous products or non-halal products. Okay, so this is our main issue now. So that's why any containers that we receive from our customers or our supplier, we will do is thoroughly inspection. If they cannot provide us the traceability of the container movement, is under Shubha. Means that means that it's compulsory to us industry to do CILTM. That's what you said, that CILTM. If we can ensure that if we can trace this container from where to where, from first pillar, second, the first tier, second tier, third tier, there is no cross contact with the non-halal product. There is no hazardous product that inside this container. So means that we can use the container without any cleanings. And because there is what based on the guidelines given by JAKIM or also Malaysian standards. So as what is industrial player. So as what Mr. Zanel said, we are more focusing on SOC. SOC is shipper owner container, means that container we can trace the first tier, second tier, third tier. So we can say, okay, what's the product that used before this? So if the shipping liner can provide us, okay, before this, there is a shipment of food shipments that is actually fulfill the halal requirements, is follow as our guidelines, and then fulfill our incoming inspection. So means that it's no need to us to do any CILTM. Okay, so that is our control now, because if you read more article about halal, most of industry that once we apply halal is very costly. But if we control the containers, or we dealing with the shipping liner, especially on their own container, so we can minimize the cost. We can minimize the cost.
Understand that. So I hope that student knows that what is SOC and also COC. SOC is a shipper on container, which is a
shipper on container.
Manufacturer will provide their own container, and COC is a carrier on container. So I hope that our students are clear on that.
Because now we as what I agree with Dr. Adam said, IT, right? Because you can develop the IT system, right? Whereby there is a unity among all the shipping liners. We can trace the rest of the world where the container come from, where from the first tier, second tier, third tier. So definitely we can control the halal the requirement of halal in the container. So and then you can minimize the cost.
Yeah, it's a very challenging,
very challenging,
especially for the container issue.
Yes, correct.
Right. Okay. All right. We're back to the question again for the basic one. Okay. Maybe Dr. Adam can answer us. Halal Logistics is considering new to a logistic concept. Could you share a comment to initiate more logistic company to implement halal practice in order to fulfill the growing demand of customers, especially for Muslim SMEs?
Question number 4, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Number 2.
Okay, panjang sikit lah saya nak cakap yang ni.
Boleh.
Okay. I'm answering this thing here because I have a research on this. Okay. My research is under the big grant that is under the Transdiscipline Research Grant, TRGS. Okay. And it took us about 3.5 years to finish it. And I feel happy when I received this grant with my group. But along the way, there's a lot of heartache when I go through this process. I meet so many people. I went to the place, I went to the sites, and so on. And I can see the expectations from many of the manufacturers that they want to export their product. They want to manufacture their products and export as many as possible. But yet there are so many restrictions, especially from the JAKIM's certifications, and that they couldn't comply on time. And there are so many things that they need to do before they can comply. They're being awarded for that kind of certifications. And but I don't blame, as I mentioned earlier, I don't blame the authority like JAKIM, okay, because JAKIM have their work to do. If we don't have JAKIM, stringent authority like them, I'm telling you, our system run kaput. Definitely run kaput. There will be in the name only maybe as a halal, but it's not halal being implemented. It's just like a teacher lah. You see, if the teacher ni dia tak garang, you are not stringent, you're not fierce, you know, the student will not study well. You see, once you are very stringent, you are very fierce, or I have to do this, I have to do this, then you produce a good result. Here is one of the examples. But the only thing is that because we got to understand the industries that are going around here, you see. Okay, for example, like most of the SMEs here, they are doing the food industries. The food industry is the one that have been very, very focused nowadays. And our GDPs, okay, Dato' just mentioned already, 7% of the GDPs, okay, our GDPs now already reached more than 1 trillion. The 7% is about 700 million. It's not a small amount of money.
Yeah.
Okay, I think by now it should reach by 1 billion. If the world was already about almost 3 billion, 2.6 billion until 2014, I'm telling you, you can expect more of that in years. So accordingly to what I've gone through here, I've seen practice and what been shown to us, I think the first one here that most of the SME companies that have to go through, they have to learn. It's not a new concept here, okay? Please. It's not a new concept, no theory. Yeah? It's a practice all the time inside us as a Muslim and for the non-Muslim who understand their Muslim friends. This is the most important part here. Okay, you cannot differentiate, okay, that, oh, he's a Muslim, I'm non-Muslim. Now, but you are staying in one community, there must have respect to each other, like our country, that you know this process is going on since before we are born here. Okay, so we must know, and we need to know, okay, as a respect to each other. So all the Muslims in these countries, they have this kind of particular things, yes, and our non-Muslim friends over here also, they understand. I think most of them, they understood well all these cases. So in the business, you want to practice, you want to have this kind of halalness, okay, for their business, yes. The first thing that you have to go through is still the halal certifications and the labeling process. That is number one. You cannot run away, even though your company is a Muslim companies, allow all those things, yes. But for the purpose of the exports, you go through, easier for you, isn't it? But for the non-Muslim, of course, they have to. This is where most of the non-Muslim companies will learn the process of the halalness better than others. Okay, you cannot run away. The sensitivity is always there. You must understand that thing, yes. So there's no complaint about this thing, yes, because it's all, when the thing is mixed with the religion's sentiments, okay, like us. So everybody have to respect that, and we have to follow that easily. Okay, I don't understand why that as a Muslim we have to argue about this thing. I don't understand why. You know, I have a Jew friend, okay, in US. Their fathers are all rabbi, okay, but not a rabbi in US, rabbi in Israel. They're very, very particular about the halalness of today. You have the kosher there. I'm telling you, they are much more stringent than us.
Yeah, correct.
And they read through all the cans, food, all those things, you run through everything. Is there any, what they call it, the emulsifier 45 or not? All those things, yes. They read one by one, all those things, yes. And they are worse than us. And they need. And the good thing is that they respect us, Malaysia, because our halal logo is truly the true logo, halal logo in the world that can be trusted. I want to tell you one story here last time. That's why the first question just now, and we discussed about this thing. I did tell you why Singapore is better. Okay, now Israel, they even though they are Jews, but they eat like us. Their foods are all halal, and they have the problem to get all the halal food at that time. It was before 2000. This is what the research conducted. Okay, and they are trying to get, and they try to dig where the informations they can get to get the source to buy these halal products, and suddenly they found that Malaysia is the best country to get all these products. Okay, one of the product, for example, like they have the what they call the olive oil. Olive oil in Middle East is very, very expensive. But ours one, they are using the palm oil, very much cheaper, big quantities. So where to get this? So they go to Singapore. They import everything to Singapore, and from Singapore they export out to Israel. And I think by the year of 2000, early 2000, 2001, like that, suddenly the Israel GDP is there. Indeed, they show that they have a trade in Malaysia. I think they put it as 1 billion. So I saw the article came out in the Straits Times. I kept that article, but somehow it lost. Okay, I hope I can get the article to be tracked again. But the article showed very clearly on that thing. Yeah? And even interviewed Dr. Mahathir. Dr. Mahathir said, no, we don't have a trade with Israel.
Yeah, correct.
Okay? But the whole thing go to Singapore, of course. It's not Singapore, Malaysia did not have a trade with Israel. With Singapore, isn't it? But our product is come from us.
Yeah.
More than 1 billion. That's something. Okay. And since that time that they know that we become so famous because of that. And our halal logo is very, very stringent. It's very well known because of that case. Of course, you talk about now, there are so few other countries now having almost the same quality as our halal logo. Do you know that? We have Indonesia. We even have a Singapore from Muiz.
Yeah.
They also have one from, I think, from China. Even Brunei also, they have very stringent one. You know that now? So don't expect that we are very convenient. We can be very relaxing, say our logo halal is number one. No, it's not going to be a number one after this. Other countries are catching up. They are going to be as stringent as us, more stringent as us. So this one. So for the SMEs product, you have to go this process. Okay? And also the labeling. For labeling here, there's a lot of fraudulence going around here, scandals around here. Okay, the people are making a mockery out of that thing, yes. Okay, and what is happening the past few months in Pasiguran, all those things, yes, all because of this kind of labeling. They're not serious. Okay, so for those SMEs, this is the first thing that they have to go through. Okay, learn from that. Go to the process. Okay, the second one here is the the facility segregation. I think Daniel or Sophia just mentioned something about the warehousing, all those things. Yes,
Halal warehouse, yeah.
education, warehouse, and looking at that way is more on the segregations. But in this case, it's not only segregations for that; it's more on the facilities and segregations. Okay, this is very important part because in any of the company that you have building, you have to make sure that which one is halal, which one is non-halal. If I were them, I put everything all halal. No question about that thing. Yes. Unless you want something that is non-halal inside that thing, yes. Okay, that is different. Then you better be another factory outside. Because that is the simple way. Okay, and people don't look now, I think whatever it is. Okay, people will look into that thing as a 100% halal and nobody start questioning that thing. Yes. Okay, now the next one will be the food quality and safety. Okay, food quality is the one that everybody is now questioning here and there. And whatever that in the process that we are doing, the food quality, I mean here, the food quality is a halal food quality. The sources where it comes from. Because not many of them know, if you, for example, like if you are an ice cream manufacturer, is a very nice ice cream, all those things, yes, and suddenly you're using the gelatin, all those things, people start asking you, where are your gelatin? Oh, this is all halal. From where? From China. Do you have the certificate? Halal, also on for the company, and so on. They show it to you. One. Second thing, do you audit them? Second, and the third thing, do they get all the sources in China before they brought in here? And then your company have to go there and audit. Or maybe the accreditation body, right, came for auditing, you may have to go to China and audit the company over there. Check 100%. Okay, this is one thing. Yes, it's tough. I think this is one of the reasons why they say it's very tough lah. For us as a Muslim, we need to know dia macam like slaughtering the chicken or cow and all those things. Yes, we need to know who slaughtered, how they're doing all those things. We need to know. We cannot let the non-Muslim slaughter the cow or the chicken for us. Even though the style, everything is all same, sama, okay, semua sama, botol semua sama, but there's no Bismillah there. Another one more question. So, in terms of the quality, the safety, or the halalness of those products, the ingredients must be actual quality of the halalness requirements. This is where the manufacturers, especially for the SME's point of view, they have to know these things in detail. Okay, I found out that most of them they have difficulties to have all these things because they are not willing to go into details. So they have to. And the last one here is the traceability. Okay, halal traceability. Anything we mentioned just now, for example, like the traceability where you get these products, where they got all those things, yes, the traceability system must be there, not only being documented in the system and so on, but physically also had to be found where. Okay, for example, like one in US, for example, you are feeding the chicken using the biodegrading whatever soya bean, whatever to feed the chicken. Where do you export this in? From US. So we need to know from US farm. Is it all halal? We don't want to have the former farm being used to plant the soya bean there, and then they planted that thing and they export to us for us. Then another case happening, isn't it? So the traceability system is very, very important. If anything they ask you, anything they come to you, you must be able to provide the evidence, the practice, everything, whatever. It's not just the paperwork. Paperwork, everybody can tell lies. Problem, tell lies. What is happening, most of them is that is happening. Okay, so we don't want that thing. Yes. And I found out that these are the 4 main elements, okay, the most important element that to observe the performance of the organization, for example, like the SMEs, to learn about just not the concept, but the theories, whatever it is, but to me, it's totally a practice for those things. Yes. These are the 4s. And all these 4s that I mentioned just now, okay, is to ensure that to avoid, okay, I'm using the word being used by them. The first one is the food adulterations. The first word is food adulteration. Secondly, food safety scandal. The third one is the fraudulent practice. These are the 3 words being frequently used in our halal process that being practiced and being diverted from the actual process. Okay, to me, whatever concept you learn about the halalness to apply in your factory, okay, you must understand the most very basic things that happen as a Muslim first. That's why if the owner of the company is a non-Muslim, for example, then you have to appoint a Muslim as the production manager, a Muslim as the quality manager, okay, and if possible also for the transporter also. Easier for you, and if possible also your operators all should be all Muslim lah, because you're producing the foods, so nobody can argue with you. Okay, even 100% the owner is non-Muslim, but it's been operated by 100% Muslim staff. Habis itu.
I think that's the most shortcut. Yeah, most shortcut way.
Yes. I think that is one of the reasons why the Asian, why Jakim do this. Actually, Jakim have a very tough time.
Yeah.
Kesian kat dia orang, okay? They have a very tough time, okay? Because They have to comply. If they divert from the actual thing all those 3 years to give leeway or some flexibility 3 years, then they, he has to answer to the God is one thing, and the whole system will derail. This is what we don't want, and it's already happened many times. Okay, you've been given the certification now, a halal certification, but today in 1 week time you already derail, swaying all from the actual halalness practice there. It happened many times.
Yeah, it shows that JAKIM have a hard time because
Yes.
of to comply and to
Yes.
enforce.
Yeah,
And
that's
they
why I
have to
don't
check,
want them to be so stringent that way. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, I think those are the things. These are the
But-
actual one, the one I
But
mentioned.
yeah, but I think that because of JAKIM also giving us 2 years, every 2 years they need to renew, then they will come again for the auditings, for checkings again.
I think 2 years is too long. If you ask me, 2 years is too long.
They cannot change the supplier, I think, yeah.
Yeah, 2 years is
Yeah.
too long. By right, it should be every 6 months.
So we need to double up JAKIM's staff then.
They have to do something. We have the minister in charge of the Islamic as well. They have to do something. Okay. The government give them the budget sikit banyak. More than 1 billion per year. Of course they can do something on that thing here, isn't it? Okay.
Okay. For this, you had mentioned about the facility segregations in the warehouse. For this question, I would like to ask Mr. Zanil. In Japan, the logistic company will expose the logo, halal logo at their warehouse. Yeah, despite there's a sign of warehouse of halal, their warehouse will be put the logo, forklift also, and other equipment to avoid misusage in handling halal product. How about your practice in Malaysia for CJs?
Okay, for CJ Century, we totally comply with the halal certification by warehouse. Okay, when we mention here warehouse, we are being very, very specific. Even as a company, we don't handle non-halal products, but the practice is that, okay, for all our operations and warehouses. But in terms of a specific halal warehouse for a particular customer, because how we work here is very much more focused on customer. Okay, if customer A halal, that means we practice, we implement. Okay, we have all the critical checkpoints, the processes. On top of that, the other requirements from the customer, we will implement it. Okay, so in terms of logo, the usage of logo here for us is very, very sensitive. Yeah. Say, for example, in one of our Port Klang warehouse, we have 3 blocks in the same location, same address. Okay, 3 warehouses are all food. Okay, and some electrical items and so forth. But when it comes to halal certification, say, for example, we have one of the 3 blocks is purely food for one particular customer, and that only that particular block will have the halal logo at the front door. Yeah, so we are being very, very careful in terms of using the logo.
That is a facilitation, segregation.
Yes, just to show, even though, yes, in terms of the certification, it shows the address. Yeah, CJ Century, say Port Klang. Okay, this warehouse, this location in terms of address. But when we have potential customers and all that who comes by and say, wow, good, you're all halal. But we will show them only this particular block is 100% compliance. Not to say that the other warehouses are not, but in terms of this, the specific certification, which is audited by JAKIM, of course, enforced, they can come in anytime. So that's the only warehouse that they can, that we can put the logo. Yeah. So again, that's for warehouse. In terms of trucks, no, we don't, because we don't want to be deemed as, anything can go wrong, and then people will start pinpointing for saying misusing the logo. Yeah. So for us, logo is very sensitive, that we only put it where it belongs. It specifically belongs.
So you're saying that you only put in the warehouse itself, not at the equipment, like for example, for the forklift, maybe other equipment like a pallet
Because
jack.
all the equipments in that particular warehouse has been audited. So it shows that everything in that house, it has been audited, it meets all the compliance.
I see.
Yeah, so there's no cross-contamination, there's no sharing with other warehouses. Yeah, it's basically here dedicated.
Very clear. Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Zane. Okay, for these questions that based on SME's response, they are challenging in applying halal certification. We know that, right? So the lack of guardians, guardians with the absence of the proper checklist to check on the raw material, critical background. So Mr. Muhammad Sofia maybe can answer me. What is your comment to ease the applications of halal certification? Is there any comment on that?
Okay, you are on mute.
Sophia, you are muted.
Sorry. Okay, it's all about the trainings. Okay, it's all about training. So once you want to establish a management system, of halal, as I mentioned before, we have two management systems. So it's about the training. So currently, JAKIM already appointed a training center, right, with who we need to refer. So they will guide us based on the management system that stated in that document. So all channels to JAKIM. So JAKIM will guide us, right? Who's the competent trainer as our consultant to establish the halal standards in our premise. Right? And then this is one of the approach that JAKIM doing now. And then the second one, if you look at on the management system, especially on the management system 2400, there is a one requirement that every organization that want to establish the halal standard in their workplace, they must have one pegawai syariah, certified pegawai syariah. Okay, this is what one of the requirement that given by JAKIM. So by doing this, okay, there is no issue of misunderstanding or maybe they don't know how to comply on the halal standards, because the pegawai syariah backgrounds must be from Islamic schools, right? So this is one of the requirement that given by JAKIM. And then the second one is internal halal committee. Okay, the internal halal committee also one of the requirement in the Malaysia standards. Okay, so internal halal committee, they also need to attend trainings, right? Training about the competency of the practice halal in the workplace. So the selection of the committee, as what Dr. Adam said, is we are prefer Muslim because we know how to practice it. Yeah. But we also encourage non-Muslim to join the halal committee as knowledge to them, and they can contribute to the practice of halal. So this is what the approach that JAKIM guide all the industry players to ensure that they are not misunderstanding on the implementation of the Malaysia standard or mispractice. Because once we talk about halal is very sensitive, right? Not only for the Muslim, also non-Muslim. Because non-Muslim also they are refer halal good, because once there is logo, halal logo is one of the guarantee or assurance that this product, this good are safe to use. So that's the practice the practice that now given by JAKIM. One is you should have one pegawai syariah, and then the internal halal committee must attend training that appointed by JAKIM to make sure that they understood what the requirement of halal. So there is no issue of misunderstanding or mispractice on the halal requirements.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best idea, that to have one of the executive of quality control in the office, in the company, to apply for the application. So it's very easy for them to understand and apply them. Yeah, okay. Maybe this one, Dr. Adam, you can answer me. Low levels of awareness and lack of concern about application, implementation of halal industry. Those are two major of the scenario of many manufacturers, especially SMEs, who are reluctant to apply for the halal certification. Many of them, maybe bakeries, nasi lemak restaurants, kind of that, because they are Muslim. So how we could promote to encourage more these companies to apply on the halal certification? Because I know my restaurant is Muslim, so I think that I don't want to apply for halal certification. So maybe there's a way of to promote them. How do you think of it?
I put this way lah, okay. Yeah, it depends on the company lah. On the company, I think for the nasi lemak, all those things, yes, okay.
Nasi kandar also don't have a halal certification, right?
No.
Yeah.
You see, if you ask me, in terms of halal certifications in Malaysia here, it has been going through for so long, even before the independence, okay, and early independence. We can see that some Malays went to the Chinese coffee shop, have their morning breakfast there, with the coffee, with the toasted bread, half-boiled eggs, and they don't touch other than that. But they can still go to that coffee shop and they have those things, yes. Understand? And also when they go for other places, okay, the nasi lemak, all those things, tepi jalan, all those things, it's okay, it's okay, because we know that they are Malays. You see, the most important part over here, you as a Muslim, you understand where to go and get your halal food. Simple as that thing here. Unless you have something that you feel was, okay, and then it's a different case.
Yeah.
All right, then then that one is something that you need to do something. Of course, for the Muslim companies, okay, the way I look at it, think yes, in a long time until now, and this thing has been going around. Why that you as a Muslim, why you cannot go and ask for the certification logo and so on, everything, yes? Because so far we never have that kind of complaint over them. Have you heard the Malay restaurants, all those things, yes, selling the non-halal food? It's extraordinary, isn't it? Unless something really tak tahulah. Maybe they are Malays but not a Muslim. But in Malaysia here, it's very unique lah. If you can find that thing here. In Indonesia, yes. Then that one is something that is really you have to ask. Belum masuk kedai dia, you kena tanya tuan kedai dulu.
Yeah.
Tolong baca Fatihah, suruh dia mutab dulu, dan lepas tu baca selawat, lepas tu baca Fatihah. Then only you can go inside. That is a different case. Okay, but in Malaysia, there is not that way. Okay, now, of course, for the non-Muslims, okay, who are selling all those things, but there is always an understanding for the non-Muslim restaurant here. If the Malays have no was to eat there, then why do they have to apply for the logo for the halal certification? You don't have the was, isn't it? Tak ada. I've been here for the last 30 years. That's what they heard. Even I also have something like that also in Batuas, in Sungai Petani. Okay, I don't feel anything at all because I know that. So it is all depending on you also, unless when there's something that triggered, there's an issue that happened. For example, like the tiba-tiba, the past 1 year already going around that the meat and stuff actually is not slaughtered according to the Muslim right and so on, everything, and affected the whole market, all those things. Then you better don't go lah. Then if you really want to go there, then better make sure lah. Then it will start to be a very pervasive negative acceptance by the people, and they will start asking all those things. And then they have to go and ask for the certification better. Okay.
Yeah, so I can say that knowledge is important actually.
Yeah, it's not only the knowledge, but it's the understanding of those things, yes, and you as a Muslim should know lah.
Yeah. I've come across one restaurant, Taiwan restaurant, selling vegetables food. I mean, all based on vegetables. And most of them are Muslims coming in, but no halal certification.
I'm telling you, you want to say about the nahala. I ask you one question here. You go to the market, you buy the vegetables from the non-Muslims, the Chinese selling the vegetables. You buy some of them from them. I'm asking you, is it halal or not?
That is a raw material. We are talking about raw material.
Yes, there is a raw material. Okay, there's a raw material. You see, in Islam, you have all those things you want to buy. There's always a way of how to clean up all those things. Yes, we've been taught about that thing here. How to wash those vegetables. Even if they are using the, the budget from the human feces, whatever it is, but there's a way of how to clean up those things. Yes, that's how it is. All right, how to you. The knowledge as a Muslim too is very important.
Yeah.
Not only just you praying 5 times a day, but you don't know about all these things. Yes, okay, you must know yourself. And then for the companies, all those things. Yes, okay. If for the companies, no doubt about it lah. See, because you're going to export, isn't it? Then you better apply for the logo, for the halal certification. Okay. Because this is to add the value of your products and to be exported and to be accepted, especially to the Arab countries. The Arab countries are very particular about this thing here. Okay, because the Muslim products in the Arab countries, the Middle East, there is very, very high demand. Okay, and so we follow the procedures. We want to get a good demand from them, and so the export is getting better. That one, HDC will have to come in. That's why I'm telling you, when you go for this thing, you have to go better. So you want to think big, then you go for the best one. Get a consultant, whatever it is. You may have to spend some money, never mind, but it's a good investment. Okay, you get the certifications and proceed.
When you're saying about the Arab country, if I'm not mistaken, I think that I didn't see any halal logos in their restaurant, if I'm not mistaken.
Because everything is halal there. It's all halal there.
Yeah.
It's all halal. They don't allow. They don't allow any non-halal food there. You don't see any pig there.
I mean, are we talking about halal in terms of the hazardous, maybe it's hazardous, maybe it's combined with the alcohols, besides, of course, porks and everything. So I think that's the element that I think Saudis are, very restricted on that from the importers itself.
The fact is very simple, okay? Because most of the Muslim countries, they won't get it unless if there's very specific reason. It's only for the personal use, then it's different. Just like Brunei as well. Go to Brunei is the same. Okay, but unless we for other things, I think as far as I know, in the Middle East, they don't go for these things. Even if they want they import the liquors, for example, or whatever, it's not for them. It's for the personal use, maybe for the embassies for the foreign embassies, their own consumption. That's what I can say lah. Okay, but Malaysia is different. We export all, and we import all.
I can say that Jakims are very trusted logos actually to the world. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Actually, this is an open question to anyone can answer me. What is the future expectation for halal logistics and supply chain market? Maybe Mr. Zanir or Mr. Sofyan can answer me. What's our future expectation?
I think future, at the end of the day, is all about education. Educating from, especially, in terms of global trade. I think the education of the halal logistics is very, very important, or the halal supply chain in this case. Like for us, we conduct workshops from our clients, for our prospects, because from a manufacturing point of view, yes, the awareness is there. Of course, they need to comply. In the first place, too, they already have their certification. But when it comes to global trade, I think educating the salespeople, the traders, yeah, for them to understand. Because with that understanding, in terms of the halal supply chain, that can bring value to them, in fact, when they sell. Yeah, because it ties back to the Toriban part, the cleanliness, hygiene. So that's a plus point for them, actually. Yeah. So that's one. Education. The second point would be the traceability. Yeah, as Dr. Adam mentioned just now. How do we manage that? You know, it can be RFIDs. Okay, I think barcode, yes, is there in place, but to make it more efficient, I think RFIDs is the way to go. Yeah, because whenever there's a product recall, you know, it can be pulled back very easily, and it can trace back. Say, for example, on a monthly basis, we do have our mock runs, okay, on product recalls. Just in case there's a product recall, because we have a system that will track all the batches, where it goes to, which store, which customer. Yeah. So, I mean, that's here in Malaysia, but once they export, you know, if they want to be what you call a responsible food manufacturer, I think that would be one of the criteria or value added, you know, to make sure that, you know, whenever there's an issue, there's a report on it, that they can, these goods can be easily traced and called. Yeah, which also involves the halal logistics processes.
Okay, Dr. Adam, just now Mr. Zani has mentioned about the RFID barcodes. It's considered Internet of Things. Do you think that maybe there's about time for halal to include Internet of Things in the industry?
Of course, if you ask me to have the ITs up to date to such practice, of course,
that's the best way.
I really encourage it. I really want to see that thing here, but actually we are going in a very slow pace.
How to move?
How to move that thing here out? Okay, now you see, you pose a very important question just now, the expectation. Okay, for the halal logistics and the supply chain market, that they may be related to that thing years. Okay, now we have been going through for so many years, you know, with the what they call it, the educations, with the trainings, with the audits, all those things years. And you must remember, our market is not getting smaller; it's getting bigger.
Yes.
Bigger. Okay, and we are going to reach 2.6 trillion by 2014 and 2024.
Yep.
For the halal market. Not going to be a very, very small market, and our GDP is 7% already. They eat up that thing. Yes, I heard in 5 years' time it's going to eat up about 10%. Okay, and that one is going to be about easily more than 100 billion of the GDP, of our GDP. And if the thing is getting bigger and so on, you need to enforce it, you know, a very stringent enforcement there. What is happening to us now, because we have been engrossed with so many success of our market expanding. We have a very good business, you know, there's so many factories being setting up, all those things, yes. And of course, you go and ask to have the certifications, the halal certification and so on. You are very happy, and so we can teach you and so on. But yet, when it comes to the implementation of those things here, they are not following exactly as it is, and that means that they know how to run away from these loopholes, and until to the extent one day when they are being caught by the authorities, and when they start checking, they found out it's not only 1 or 2 small cases like this, and there are others so many and bigger than that. That means the question coming back to our enforcement system: what are they doing? Who are actually be responsible for that thing? Yes. You see, the case like the one that happened in Pasir Gudang, you know, Where they can cheat the labeling of those meat, from the beef to horses lah, from kangaroo meat and so on. You know, it shouldn't happen. Why it happened? The enforcement come to that thing years. Back to one big very question, what are they doing? You see, I'm not trying to question again on this
Yeah,
case.
actually, it's a big question marks actually.
Everybody has been asking, everybody has been talking, and they don't believe anymore what the authority said. You know, when it comes to that kind of level, it's not a small matter anymore. It's very, very serious already. You see, what are you going to do? You know why? Because this is something about the non-halal things, as a mostly you all take, is very sensitive in Malaysia, that you take, put inside your mouth, eat for your body, and so on. It grows inside here, you know, and the thing becoming very sensitive to us. And when you say about all these kind of things, and telling you, it can affect not only socially, economically, but political instability maybe.
Yeah.
You do not take care of this issue very well. Okay, this is what we count only one day case only. You know, we don't know what other cases happen to other checkpoint. Okay, I think come back to this thing here. The major one is still the enforcement. What are you going to do with this thing here? If you think that CILTM is too small, whatever it is, then you make it better.
Yeah, I think there's a challenge.
Those things, yes.
Yeah, I think there's a challenge for the students or maybe to the scholars to make another research on that and to help JAKIMs to find more ideas, yeah, and how to recover or maybe how to implement new policies to avoid such things happen again.
No, I think you cannot put that way on JAKIM alone, okay? Because they have so many constraint things up to them, up to their own sleeve. Cannot, okay? If you think that you need another special enforcement, okay, under JAKIM, whatever you set up, then you set up. Don't think that thing here. Maybe they proposed that thing here, but it was not being taken lightly.
Yeah.
It's not becoming like this. If to the extent that something that can cheat like this, it is no longer a small matter. You know, it's very big matter already.
Yeah, correct. Okay, thank you, Dr. Adam, for your tips and ideas actually from that. Maybe Mr. Sofian want to say last word about your future expectation for Halal Logistics.
It's okay, you are muted.
Again, again and again, sorry. Okay. Expectation from the our industries, right? Okay. First is about, if you look now, we have many types of halal logo from others country. So, but with these different logos, so definitely we can say that this unity of halal certifications. Okay. If we compare with, so means that in Malaysia, we are referring to JAKIMs. So JAKIM controls the halal logos. And Indonesia have their own halal logo. Brunei, they have your own logo, China and so on. So our expectation as a supply chain industry, we need the unity of halal certification. I give one example. For example, like we are managed halal goods, okay? And then we receive halal goods from China, from Philippines, okay? But they use a different logo, okay? So this different logo, is it recognized by JAKIM or not? So we need to check with JAKIM, okay? And then one of the requirements from JAKIM is from other countries, it means that from export product, the logo halal must be recognized by JAKIM. So if the logo is not recognized by JAKIM, we put is under KIV area or non-conformant areas, or maybe it's non-halal products. So until this logo is acknowledged and agreed by JAKIM. So one is this unity of halal certificates. The second one is I'm talking before, I'm sharing with you all before, is high cost. Okay, when we talk with the supply, why is high cost? Because in terms of control the container traceability. We don't have a good system in terms of traceability of our container. Due to that, we need to do CILTM. Every container that we can't confirm the status of container, we need to do CILTM. And the CILTM is very costly. I can share with you with the 40-footer container, if we don't have groups internally to do CILTM, it costs us 1,200 per container, the 40 containers. So it's very costly. So if our system can trace the container, okay, the rest of the world, so this will minimize cost of implementation, the cost of practice. Okay, and then the last one is what Dr. Adam shared, is the inadequate Sharia compliant personnel. This one I agree, because as in the management system, okay, the JAKIM enforcer should do audit in yearly basis. But unfortunately, because of inadequate Sharia officer there, some of the company get the fast approval without site audit, right? Based on the documents that we submit to them, but they don't come to our site to do the site verification. Why? Because they do not indicate Sharia compliant. This is what I agree with Dr. Adam said. Right? So this is the three factors that we need to improve to ensure that our supply chain can commit with the halal logistics supply chain. Right. I think that's all my comments.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Susan.
Pak Nurul,
Yes.
I just want to add a few.
Yes, go ahead, Dr. Adam.
Yes, there is regarding the increase of the knowledge and how that to educate our Muslim SMEs. Okay, I already mentioned about the 4 just now, isn't it?
Yep.
Those are the performance-wise. But in terms of the another practice, there are another, I think I'll give you 4 here. The first one is more on the monitoring. Okay, I think our Cik Sofian, so Cik Zania mentioned something already about these changes, but the word monitoring is more appropriate for these changes because the SMEs for the halal, okay, for how you monitor this is very important. Okay, I think the people who are doing this kind of business, they need to be well trained. They need to be well trained how to monitor this because it's very important monitoring, so that there's no loopholes or any problems related to this thing rise, especially in terms of their process in producing their products, okay, and later onward to supply to their distributions. Okay, now the next one is the integrity. So when you monitor, you must have the halal integrity there, you must never question. I already mentioned just now, okay, if possible, everything should be all Muslim lah, so that nobody can question that thing. Yes, I'm not trying to be so orthodox over here, okay, but to be safe lah, to be safe, and nobody talking about that thing years, okay, and your management also, the integrity also will not be questions. So better come up to that thing here lah. Okay, so the integrity or whatever that you're doing from A to Z must not be questioned. Okay, that is the case. And then the next one is the access point for the halal logistics services access point. It must be a single access point. You don't have to go to many access points. One single access point is good enough. Okay. Some of them, they go to many access points and ending up, there's so many manipulations there. Some of them playing tricks there. I know some of the big Asian, especially in terms of logistics suppliers, whatever it is, they like to move around another one to another using different trucks and trucks to avoid the authorities checking and so on. Okay, so it's better to have only one single access point. And the last one is to ensure that there will be a reduced cost, whatever that you are doing. Because in terms of halal logistics, all those years, I think we mentioned very detailed just now by Mr. Zaniel. Okay, I think one of the major concern here is regarding the costing. Okay, costing.
Yeah, correct.
Some are especially why we have to pay more. Okay, why is part of the service? Questions. I remember when I first started to do the research on these things, yes, when they started to apply these things, I think I saw that one in Northport, I think. They start to build one for, I think what company is that? I think Nozomi, I think.
Nozumi, yeah.
Yes, I think for the place, I think yes, this for the halal, and that one is part of the preparation for the Japan Olympic lah. Okay, it's few years before that, I think they already prepared. I think yes, I think I went there in 2015 or 16. Okay, they already prepared the place there. So you see, the main purpose of that thing, whatever it is, they are very concerned is always the cost. I think for the halal logistics operators, okay, they provide these services. I think you have to think of the cost, how that you can eliminate this cost or you reduce the cost, whatever, as part and service to your customers. I don't know how this thing you can happen, okay? Because I did ask during my interview with some of the companies, our logistics companies, they say that it's difficult because they still have to charge. Because if they don't charge, okay, there will be no return. Because our logistics companies, their profit margin is very, very small. I can understand that here. Okay, but somehow you may lose so many customers if you keep on charging them. I don't know how you link to these cases. Okay, the expectations, the customers who really want it or they don't want it, of course they want to eliminate the thing. Yes. Okay, I think those force I think is good enough. Okay, how that this thing can educate the Muslims on the knowledge for the SMEs.
This is more to Jakim or more towards to
No. This one is more towards the company.
The SMEs.
Yes. Okay.
I see. I'm just come to my mind that sorry, maybe Mr. Zamir can answer me. Normally we do sama also too using water, right? We have to pump the water, the high speed water. Is it so?
Okay, that one is very technical.
Very technical.
Yeah,
Maybe Mr.
yeah,
Sofian.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I was wondering, is it happen that is that I mean like anything that maybe apply using tayammum? I don't know. Is there any? Using sand or maybe a clean sand. I don't know. Maybe it just come to my mind.
Yeah.
Instead of water, because water is very expensive. Yeah.
Yes. Well, we must use a clay soil to do the soil, and then the team that want to do setu must be competent, and then they must certified with Jakim. And
you
then
mean the soil itself?
Yeah.
The soil itself, right?
Yep. So it is very costly. Either you have your own team or you appoint an external contractor that appointed by Jakim. So these are, I said, very costly to handle. Right?
So this is a part of the cost that you mentioned just now, about 1,200, is it?
I received invoice from our external parties. They charge us 1,200 for 40-footer container.
I see.
Per container.
Maybe we should suggest that the own logistic company do that.
Yeah, we have friends that we have one friends. We have friends that they deal with fast moving products. Okay, so they need to have their own team to manage the setu. So what they do is they send this team to get the certified by Jakim, and then during the activity of setu, one of officer from Jakim validate the process. So if they follow the guidelines, then they will document it or give a certificate to show that okay, this container is already setu by setu.
Yeah, I think that's helped so much on the cost itself.
Yes.
Yeah.
This if you're dealing with the fast moving product, but let's say you have a halal product that maybe on a weekly basis you have 4 or 2 containers. So definitely you need to appoint external party to do the setu.
I see.
All right. So it's very costly.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sofian, for your information. Maybe I should hand over to Mr. Dr. Azam for the question and answer.
Okay, thank you very much, Puan Nurul Faraiza. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot of feedbacks from the participants. They give us inputs, they give us questions. For time being, I have 6 questions in the question and answer chat. Let's take one by one. I think the panels also can access to the question and answers. First from anonymous attendee, hi panel. Currently, is there any container tracking system that is able to check by public containers for all liners or NVOCC has a specialized system logging to check? As I know, it is based on liner respective website. Anyone who would like to give feedback on this?
Yeah, I can. Okay, based on your question, number one, yes, of course, there's a tracking in terms of shipping lines tracking system available on the website, depending on which liner. But in terms of specific container, for you to track, you will have to be the booking party. Yeah, you have to be the booking party to track your own containers. You're not, I mean, if you're just a general public to track these containers, yeah, it's not allowed. I mean, again, at the end of the day, it's the booking party has got every right to track their own containers, but not the public.
Thank you, Cik Zanin. The second question from the question and answers, will the cost of container fee itself for loading of halal food products higher than the general container to load normal goods for the same container, like 20 GP?
Okay, I can answer that too. Just a bit of history. When we first started in 2008, again, we didn't have the number of manpower to actually practice and follow the SOP in full. So we are always rotating the same people. Yeah. So hence, because of that, yes, of course, we had to put a certain cost into that. Overtimes, making them work over the weekends, on top of that, trainings and so forth. These are all the initial costs when we first started, when we got the certification in the first, I should say, 1-2 years. But as time went by, so now it's probably in our 10th year or 12th year already, that majority, of our colleagues in operations, they're being trained because it's all in-house, train the trainer. Yeah. Hence, that has very much lowered down the cost. Yeah. So to be very specific on your question, in terms of handling, in terms of the basic warehousing operations, in terms of staffing, unstaffing containers, it's the same now. Except when there's additional requirements, like Sophia mentioned just now, it involves us to them because, yeah, that's another cost. But when it comes to the basic handling, you're going to compare against a normal container of stuffing, yes, for us, it's the same. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Cik Zanin.
So as you can see, it takes time, for that cost to actually come down to be competitive as the rest of them.
Okay. Now the third question. It says here, my name is Luis. My question are, will the blockchain technology help halal quality control, and will JAKIM Malaysia implement blockchain to control and retain halal quality at the highest level since the country is catching up with halal certification? Who would like to give a go to this answer?
I think Dr. Adam should answer this.
What's your opinion, Dr. Adam?
You need to mention about your industry 4.0 now.
You see, we wanted to be on the 4IR there. Okay, but as mentioned, I think that, you see, that's why I feel more sympathy towards JAKIM. You understand or not? If you ask me about all those things, I think maybe even some JAKIM people also, most of them also, they may not understand the blockchain is what, or even towards the 4IR also, and how to monitor that thing into that kind of directions. Okay, because currently also, I think they have so many things that they still have to catch up. Okay, because their area is not that. Their area is to ensure that you get the certifications in the stringent and correct way. Okay, And of course, if you ask me, I'm telling you whatever that is for improvement, whatever for better, I'm telling you, I'll go for it. If, for example, like you asked this way, isn't it? I go all for it. If I'm telling you, I mentioned earlier just now, we have the minister in charge for that, for the religious affairs. Jakim is under him. Then we should pressure him to start all over here, to give Jakim full support, to have whatever that they need to be done to run currently together with the towards the 4IR. And of course, we don't want only to have the blockchain. We want to have the artificial intelligence. We want to have the cloud. We have to have the IoT and so many things there. Okay, because if we don't start now with all those technologies, we will be backward. We will be backdated. We don't want to be obsolete in that thing here. I'm telling you that thing here. And we are getting very slow, to be very frank, you. Very slow. Other countries have been moving towards all the high technologies, okay, and they are talking about very actively, technically about the AI, about the IoT, about how to move on with the clouds, with the big data, and so on. And we are still moving very slow pace. Okay, so you ask me about all these things. Yes, I'm telling you, I am impatient person to see this movement. Okay, I like the question you give me just now.
It's from our participant, Dr. Adam.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Actually, it's a good question. The discussion is a very good. We got
because this shows that there's a progress. What is going to happen in future? Not in future, no. Not. Now I'm moving forward. Okay, we cannot stagnate there. If we stagnant, then we don't move, then we will be backdated. When we are backdated, I'm telling you, more problems will be coming up, and this is what is happening now.
Okay, next question. This is from Muhammad Farid Muhammad Makmur, one of our logistic lecturers in UTAR. The question is, Assalamualaikum, Mr. Zanil and Mr. Sofyan. 3 questions. 1, what is the strength of your manpower that handle the halal logistics? 2, do they need to attend any specific training internally or externally to handle halal logistics? 3, do you employ specific personnel that dedicate to monitor the compliance of your halal practices?
Chief Enforcement Officer can answer that.
Okay, about this question, okay, about the trainings, okay, yes, they must attend a training that already fixed by JAKIM. For example, once you talk about the Malaysia standard on halal, there is they provide the competency of training. So who will attend this training? Okay, first is the internal halal committee. They must attend. Okay, they must attend this training at least once in 3 years, okay, for the internal halal committee. And then the second one is all the respective staff or employees that have related with the halal good activity, they must seek for the awareness or training in the first 3 months hiring. So these are one of the requirements that's set by JAKIM. And then definitely our internal auditor. Okay, our internal auditor must be certified as an internal auditor, internal halal auditor for appointed training center, which already fixed by JAKIM. So this we need to set before we certified with the halal standards. Right.
All right. Thank you, Cik Sofyan. It is another new question from Abdul Nasir Abdul Wahab. Would the halal freight rates be higher than the normal freight rates?
Daniel. It's commercial.
Company secret.
I think, okay, freight here, I mean, freight covers, say, for example, there's air freight, sea freight, and then land freight, land distribution. I think Sea freight, air freight, I think that's very much more controlled by the shipping lines or the airlines itself. Yeah. In terms of freight rates, yeah, that's very specific. In terms of land distribution, trucks, in terms of transportation, land transportation, I think it varies. It really much, it can vary from a mere 5% to 100%. Yeah, because at the end of the day, for land transportation, that can be tweaked. There's a lot of customization and requirements from the customer. They want a dedicated truck. They want a chartered truck. They want certain, especially for like if it's frozen, yeah. They would like to put a lot of this temperature monitoring. So yeah, in terms of handling halal, I think in terms of freight rates, sea and air is, again, I want to repeat that is being much controlled by the shipping lines or the airlines themselves. So I think that there's no difference when you ship halal, but only when it comes to land transportation, that can vary.
Thank you, Mr. Zani. Thanks for the input. Next question is from Faradina Ahmad. Assalamualaikum, Chair Lady and all the panel. Question on enforcement. Would it be preferable to have an alternative dispute resolution when there is a dispute or issues on halal logistic matters? This could save the reputation of the SME as the food manufacturer, but at the same time, the case can be settled in a closed door. It is important for both Jakin and SME to learn from each other as logistics are growing in the part, logistics are growing and a fast-paced industry. It could be a mediator for local court. Thanks, from Farah. I open up this question to everybody.
I'm not sure whether we have the commission for this or not, you know, or arbitrary. I think the most that they can go maybe go to the commercial arbitrary. That's the only thing I think, commercial arbitrary. Okay, I think that maybe they can solve this case. Yes, if there is a complaint between the consumers or the companies or the organizations. Okay. As for the authorities, I think, okay, anything that involves the authorities, I think the authority job is to make sure that the thing is followed. If you are not followed, you did not comply, then they will summon you, okay, or they will take you to court immediately. That is the enforcement. As simple as that thing here. But to have the arbitrary, I'm not so sure whether we have that or not. We have the commission for the transportations, but for this case, so far I tak dengar lagi ni. So far none. We don't have. Okay. But you did give some good ideas. Okay. Because I understand that we have this kind of a problem. Okay. Why not it's just a closed door meeting, closed door discussions. Okay, because it involves the integrity of a Muslim, integrity of many people, you know. Okay, that is also a good idea. But I also raise up one issue. If this thing is not being exposed in the newspaper, then nobody knows that this thing happened. And the thing will happen again and happen again. Okay, that is the role of the media. That is the role of the media by then. So over the whole case here, it will come back again to the authority, as I mentioned just now. If you did not comply, then they will summon you, okay, or they take you to court.
Okay.
Then we settle that. That is a case. Most of it ending up that way. Most of it ending up that way.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Adam. Now we have almost 12 o'clock. I think there will be
so fast.
Yes, 12 o'clock already. So I'll take the last two questions. First First from Dr. Yusriza Yunan. From Dr. Yusriza Yunan. There's a two question here. What is a halal critical point? What is a halal critical point for halal operation, halal logistic operation?
Okay. For halal logistics operations, okay, what we are practicing right now, number one would be, in terms of the warehousing part, would be competency of those working in the warehouse, in terms of handling the products, in terms of handling the forklifts, equipments. Okay, so that's the first one. Of course, the second one would be in terms of the storage area. Okay, you need to have your designated locations, and then how you handle the transfer process between the truck to the staging area, to the checking area, to the rackings. And this is also to prevent mixing of the items or the products. Then the third one would be, very importantly, the inspection or the checking. Okay, we got to refer to a daily checklist which needs to be signed off after every transaction. Okay, that involves during the incoming and also the outbound. Okay, even yes, we did inspect in terms of inbound, but even though there's an outbound, we have to also check, yeah, to make sure there's no leakages, there's no cross contamination, there's no, say, broken glass on it or anything that will make the chain or will make the customer reject. Okay. Then the fourth point would be housekeeping, hygiene, and sanitation. Yeah. Again, this is a very, very important point that we really need to enforce. Again, there'll be daily checklists. Our cleaners are being trained, okay, monitored, okay, on the areas that they have to clean on a daily basis. And then, of course, the next one will be the SIR2 area. Okay, there should be a designated area. Okay, of course, and Sophia mentioned just now. Okay, it has got to be authorized and certified, yeah, by Jakim. And then, of course, the last one, I think, very importantly, is the pallets. The pallets that hold the cargo. Why? Because these pallets also, we got to make sure that it's in good condition. You don't want the pallets to be like there's broken pallets that can puncture the product, you know, or pallets that is being exposed outdoors, you know, which may have contaminated by termites or chemicals. Yeah. So those are the few checkpoints that we really need to look at in terms of our logistics warehousing requirements or the halal checkpoints.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Zanil. Add on to the question, this is from Dr. Yusriza Yunan as well. The question is, which logistic activities are more demanded between halal transportation and halal warehouse? Well, from your perspective, Mr. Zanil and Mr. Sofian, what's your opinion on this?
Demand-wise, because it is in tandem, you know, you need a transport to transfer to the warehouse. So it always it's a back-to-back. Yeah. So the demand for warehouse and transport it's at the same level, and the trend now, a lot of companies would like to outsource. Yeah, outsource. Reason being, a lot of companies now, they would like to, number one, leave it to the experts to manage the warehouse. That's one, and also to basically ensure that the halal chain in terms of warehousing is being managed. Okay. Of course, a lot of these companies too. They have the production has grown, so in terms of having a warehouse is not, which is not income, not what do you call, not generating income. So they convert their warehouse into a production line. In fact, I think in the last 2 months, we were being audited by one of our prospect customers. They are converting their warehouse into production line. So this is their first time, that they want to outsource. And it was a rigorous audit. They were tough. It was their first time. Yeah. So yeah, Sofian and myself and our operations team, I think it was a good 2 months of audits, coming up, establishing processes, to make them comfortable. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Encik Zanil. This is a question I would like to give it to Datuk Mahyudin. So Datuk, this is something from Muhammad Nizam and also Baharudin Kamarudin on the compliance issues and also on enforcement of equal integrity. So maybe Datuk can look into this. Can CILT Malaysia and combine with other industry players kickstart the idea of assisting JAKIM by creating third-party enforcement? What do you think, Datuk?
I think every time, when there is problem, we always talk about enforcement. I think to me, the most important thing, we can educate the industry player. I think that's why HDC is coming out with a new course. That is a halal executive course. So later, any halal organization, they must have a halal executive in their setup. I think with that, maybe, everybody will be following what the guideline is, the SOP. And then once the SOP is followed, then I think they shouldn't, there'll be less enforcement, to be carried out. So I think in most part of the world, to avoid all this, normally they educate the public. So I think we should go forward to that kind of to educate the public about halal and then about the compliance, and so that everybody is aware about those things.
So Datuk, you agree that CILT also have to take part in this?
CILT will be involved with the with the halal program.
So there's a chance to call HDC next time?
Yeah, inshallah. Inshallah.
Okay.
Thank you very much for the question. Ladies and gentlemen, now we are already 8 minutes past 12. So we already exceeded the time. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, the participants and the panelists, thank you very much for participating in the webinar. So we really appreciate all the questions, feedback, and answer and input that you give to us. I am sorry if I cannot ask some of your questions due to the time limitation, but I believe this is a very productive and informative webinars that we able to gauge about halal practices that has been applied from the context of Malaysia. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please take note that I would like to inform today's we going to have another webinar organized by CILT, which is the pelancaran sambutan Hari Kebangsaan ke-64 tahun. This is will be held on 3 p.m. Kuala Lumpur time. So the webinar links, it will be done by Zoom, and it is organized by CILT Malaysia as well. So feel free to participate. The link has been provided in the meeting chat. And also, ladies and gentlemen, there will be another webinar next month on September 2021. This is organized by CILT Malaysia Perak Section and UTAR. The topic is about maritime economic potential at the state of Perak. So we are going to move forward. This will be held on the 25 September 2021. It will be held by Zoom. The link as well has been provided in the meeting chat. So ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the webinar. thank you for participating in the webinar. So we hope to see you again in our next webinar. Thank you and goodbye. To the panelists, can you please stay for a few minutes for our photo session? Yeah.
Okay.
Tak ada makan-makan
Thank you all for participating. Good webinar. Banyak input, kita dapat banyak input hari ini. Okay, kejap saya ambil gambar. Okay, everyone. Okay, okay, I'm going to take just one, two, three.
Okay.
Kejap. And okay, one more. Okay, thank you very much. Webinar hari ini banyak sangat input.
Okay, thank you very much.
Ini tak
Dato'.
banyak lagi tau, banyak lagi sebenarnya. Saya baru nak tanya dengan Dato'. Dato', ni apa ya, ni halal hub di Pulau Indah tu apa cerita dia sekarang?
I pun nak tanya tu sebenarnya.
Oh, it's still there lah.
Very slow kan.
One of our customers is there. I mean, FNN is there lah. FNN Dairies. Yeah, they are there. But tak ada lah, not many new players lah kat situ, manufacturing.
Most of the reason because of the infrastructure situ lah, jalan-jalan kat situ quite difficult, far and also bahaya.
Yep. Bahaya.
Yeah. I've been there. It's a very quiet place actually. Very quiet.
It's a $6 billion punya investment, no, all thrown inside the drain.
Yeah.
But outside the halal hub, I think IKEA is one of the biggest now lah. They set up their region
baru. IKEA baru lagi.
Tu, banyak warehouse.
Yang kat luar tu. The new one is being developed very fast, surprisingly, but not the halal hub.
Yeah, too many states want to do the halal hub. That's the problem.
Yeah.
They should focus.
All right. I dismiss myself. Thank you, Mr. Zanir, Dr. Adam.
Thank you.
Dr.
Alright.
Mr. Sofian, thank you very much.
Okay. Alright. Terima kasih sama-sama sekali panel. Kalau jumpa, kirim salam. Hai, jumpa, jangan lupa. Kita minum kopi.
Nanti saya bagi.
Jangan risau, saya akan tanya soalan nanti untuk saya.
Dr. Adam dia very aktif, Dr. Adam.
Boleh lah sikit-sikit, Dato'.
Alright, bye-bye.
Okay, Assalamualaikum.
Salam.
Terima kasih semua.
Okay.